Hi, my name is Ismael Triviño, and today on the Millennial Way Show, we welcome a guest who's remind us that the limit is quite literally not on Earth. Nicole Stott. She's an engineer, an artist, and a retired NASA astronaut. She spent 103 days in space, lived and worked aboard the International Space Station, and took part in historic missions such as STS-128, STS-133, and expeditions 19, 20, and 21. But beyond exploring the universe, Nicole has dedicated her life to a deeply human purpose, bringing together art and science to heal, inspire, and connect people. She joins us today at BitBasel to talk about her extraordinary initiative, the Space for Art Foundation, a project that unites children in hospitals around the world with astronauts, artists, and visionaries to create art that even has traveled to the space. Get ready for a conversation about creativity, resilience, the future of humanity beyond our planet, and about what looking at Earth from above teaches about ourselves. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here today with us.
Thank you.
How did the idea of merging two seemingly distant worlds, space, exploration, and art, come together in the Space for Art Foundation?
Well, I think for me personally, those two things had been together almost my whole life. And then I was able to take them to space to create a watercolor while I was living on the International Space Station. And when I was thinking about retiring from NASA, I wanted to find a way that would help communicate the experience to people who didn't already know there was a space station, to people who didn't already know that all of what we're doing there is ultimately about improving life on Earth. And I just kept coming back to that painting in space. And that then opened up these opportunities to work with kids in a local hospital, which I thought would be a one-off thing. I thought, oh, I'll go work with these kids, we'll do this space-themed art therapy project, and I'll move along to other stuff. And I got into that space with these kids. It was a pediatric cancer center in Houston, MD Anderson. And from within 10 minutes of being there, I'm like, I think I discovered my next mission in life, because there was so much inspiration in that room already from these children and their families going through what you hope is the worst thing these kids would ever have to go through in their lives. And I watched how bringing this story of space exploration to them in a totally different way had them sitting up straighter, and then allowing them the opportunity to create through that inspiration and know that their work was going to come together with other kids from around the world to build an art spacesuit or these postcards to space. I could see it like transforming them. They were transcending that experience, and it gave them the opportunity in that place to think about their future in a totally different way. And it was just like, okay, I'm hooked. I think I went to space, so I got to come back to Earth and do these kinds of projects.
From those 103 days of you out in space, how can you define that experience?
Awesome. That's a word that comes to mind for sure. Surreal. But I think there's this reality of connection that comes from that experience. I found it a little bit strange to be in this place, and I like to say that it's not, I plan to go back to space, so that would be nice, if not even in my own mind, but that I could be in this place where I was separated from Earth and have the opportunity to look back at it and feel more connected to it in some ways than I did when I had my feet right on it. And I think that's because I was being presented with this place that is a planet, reminding me we live on a planet in space. We're all Earthlings, only border that matters, that veil thin blue line of atmosphere, and how important that is for us to just bring that into our lives, consider it every day. And so the work we're doing, we want to encourage people to remember that. When your feet hit the floor, when you come out of bed every morning, just remind yourself, even briefly, I am on a planet in space.
As a retired astronaut, and with this fascinating foundation, how BitBasel entered into the equation, and what have you made it of that experience?
Well, I think, again, it's about connection, right? I'm here with a woman that I consider to be my partner in purpose. We had independent organizations that we've brought together, I think, in a really meaningful way. The Space for Art Foundation and an organization called Space for a Better World, where the mission is to connect the space curious to the space serious, and that's working with kids and adults, reminding people of all of the things that are going on in space that are ultimately about improving life on Earth, right? And so we're all over the world doing things. Earlier this year for Earth Day, we did a celebration, and it seems like a long way, but it'll get to your... We were doing a project in London, in Piccadilly, where we had taken again over the big screen out there with kids' artwork, telling this story about how we live on an ocean planet in space, the connection between sea and space. And we were able to curate this really wonderful art and interactive experience for the public to better understand sea and space. And Christina posted about that on her LinkedIn, and one of the founders of BitBasel noticed it and like, oh my gosh, we need to bring this to Miami for Art Basel. And
the power of connection.
It is.
It
absolutely she just reached
social
out.
Media.
And so in a little bit different form, we created the Ocean Planet exhibit and paired that with the Sea and Space Summit that we had this week that brought in some really incredible people in both of those worlds to share the link of it and to show, how we live on an ocean planet. And we've got some really amazing art in that gallery that...
Nicole, last question. We have to...
Yep.
I know we have to move on, but I would like to know if you could deliver one message to the next generation, the future explorers, artists, and scientists about the future of space and our role on it, what would it be?
It would be to remind themselves, to remember always in everything they do that their home is a planet in space, and how important it is for them to accept their role as a crewmate and not a passenger on our planetary spaceship. And that by doing so, they really can help us create a future for all life on Earth that's as beautiful as it looks from space.
Nicole Stott, artist, retired astronaut. It was such a pleasure and an honor to have you today on the Millionaire Way Show. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.